You're listening to Funny Peculiar with Jeff Downs.
Welcome to the fourth episode of Funny Peculiar Podcast. Before we get on with the interview with the wonderful Trixie Blue, a burlesque dancer, you can follow the podcast on Instagram, which is Funny Peculiar Podcast, or Twitter, which is Funny Peculiar and the number 2, or Facebook. And of course, you can go via the website, which is funnypeculiar.org. So, without further ado, let's get chatting to Trixie Blue. So, welcome to Funny Peculiar Podcast, and this week I'm chatting to Trixie Blue, who is a burlesque dancer. So, hello, Trixie.
Hello, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. I'm enjoying the change in the weather. It's fantastic.
It's at last, which is for, because I take it, obviously, burlesque is it's an indoor pursuit, but have you ever done it? Here's an immediate question off the bat. Have you ever done it outside?
Absolutely. Right. My goodness gracious me. I've done it outside, inside, upside down, whatever. God only knows.
So whatever element, you're not bothered, basically.
Not at all. Absolutely love it. So yes, outdoors burlesque, absolutely.
So, okay, so they do. So it's, again, for people that sort of don't know about it or should, obviously it's something that very sort of popularised in the 50s, but again, it goes further back than that. So when did your interest start in burlesque?
Oh, my interest. I've always had an inkling about burlesque from when I was quite a young child. However, my interest came when I started to idolise people like Pamela Anderson and Carmen Electra and all the beautiful glamour models of the late 90s. And they all sort of brought me down to this beautiful lady called Betty Page. And so she did something, obviously, in the 50s that was called burlesque. So it got me into the performance aspect to the photography, and I've just been hooked ever since. And that was about 9 years ago.
And that was, so Betty Page, she was quite a strong icon for you. And did that control or influence your style, or that was something else?
Oh, well, no, not at all. It doesn't actually influence my style. So Betty is more to me the accompaniment of everything that anyone ever wanted to be in the 1950s. It was the lovely girl next door who had that ferocious and sexy side to her. And I loved that. I thought that was fantastic, the way that she amalgamated the two. And so beautiful as well. Absolutely beautiful. But she has not influenced my style of burlesque, because she was predominantly a model, and her style of burlesque is completely opposite to what I do, which is completely conflicting.
So there's lots of different. So I didn't realise. So there's different styles of burlesque. Then is there an American? There's a UK. Is there European? Does it change that way?
It's more to do with genres of burlesque. So it's obviously a heavy play on satire from when it first began. So it's all derivatory from commentary. So that's pretty cool. But with the British burlesque troupe, they all went over to America, and that's when it started to turn on its head, where it used different aspects of popular culture of the time and inherent within the striptease as well. So it's all different aspects of burlesque, different genres.
So there's a lot of there's a mix going there. So you say the strip sort of, there's that side of it. I suppose the traditional. I think there was that film, wasn't it, Mrs. Henderson's?
Yes.
That was in London, wasn't it? That was the 30s, 40s. Is it the fan dance? Am I getting that right? Where it was,
yeah.
And I think that was because that was legal, wasn't it? Because the government had cracked down on nudity, and
absolutely.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the genres really in this day and age is just to try and differentiate the styles and differentiate the different performers, and sort of a nod to the past styles. That there's a style called cheesecake, which is a nod predominantly to pin-up photography, like the girl next door. It's a very accessible form of burlesque that is done predominantly by newer performers.
Yeah.
And it's all about being, oh my goodness, is something coming off? Shame on me, but actually I'm letting you see it's fine. Right. So it's one of those play intrigue. Or you have a performer like myself that likes the sexualized iconography and the power between the the sexual provocative display,
right,
rather than trying to be a little bit cheeky.
Yes.
So yeah, so the more tease in the strip.
And so it's become, so it was, to start off with, it was quite, as you say, girl next door, but now modern day burlesque, the sort of style that's around today, that's become a bit more adult, would you say?
What I'm actually trying to say is nowadays we have more of these genres.
Right.
It separates it separates different performers and things like that. It's just a nice way of classification. And different performers prefer to different styles. Some performers are performers and not dancers.
Right.
And some performers are strippers and not just burlesque performers. So it's just different ways to explain it. Yeah, it's very complex.
So I'm making notes here furiously, I didn't realise it got so complicated, but then that's performance, and with any performance it gets divided up into lots of nuances, and you have to try and so you also teach burlesque, so how long have you been teaching, and who comes to your classes?
How long have I been teaching? Oh, crikey days. That's a lovely question there. I think I've been teaching from 2011. Yes, I have. From 2011. And I've taught thousands and thousands of wonderful men and women. They're incredible people. I've never met such amazing people in my life. And it's anyone from age 18 to, I think my oldest student has been about 80.
Wow.
80, and so it's pretty much that summons the board that it is for everybody. It's such an accessible art form that everyone, like all these genres that we've just spoken about, they give the people the opportunity to have something and use burlesque to suit them. So they don't have to strip, they can strip. They don't have to be funny, they can be funny. They don't have to be sexy, or they can be overtly sexy. So it's one of these things. It's an absolute beautiful art form that anyone can really get to grips with. So my typical student is pretty much, I don't really have a stereotype because everyone's so different. Everyone is completely different. So it attracts, I think, the most beautiful of humans. I think that's what I'm going to say.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sure. And you get men, and so men come as well to learn burlesque. So is there a male form of burlesque? Because I know now you're based in the northeast, and I know Warren Speed, who was a comedian. He's a filmmaker, and now he did male burlesque, didn't he?
He did, and he has subsequently given that up through much jibes from myself, because I do love his style.
Right.
I do absolutely love Warren. But yes, there is a genre per se called burlesque, where that's predominantly like a comedic style of male performance.
Okay.
However, I'm this stickler, and I don't like to necessarily say burlesque. I like it just to be burlesque above the board. So we do have quite a lot of wonderful male performers, and then so goodness gracious me, I'm getting really carried away. I'm thinking about them now, and they're just insane. They do exactly what the ladies do, and the ladies do exactly what they do. There isn't really an interchangeable gender.
To give us an example, who would you name that's out there that does the male burlesque, and how do they and how is their performance? And so they're obviously stripping, they're taking their clothes off, so they'll be in a suit. And I think I saw Warren Speed in a Chaplin type outfit. So will they have a sort of character they play as well?
Well, yes. So I mean, we've got two different performers here. So if we do discuss Warren, the fantastic Warren Speed was always quite character driven.
Right.
Everything was like predominantly based on comedy and satire. So like perceived male clothing and suits and things. But then you have a very good friend of mine and an incredible international performer called Tom Harlow, who wears full face of makeup. He has a drag element to his burlesque, but he's just him. He's very unique and he's incredible. He's a what you would call a stripper. He was more of a stripper in the burlesque, and so he's more bump and grind, and incredibly sexy, and just exactly how you would feel when you would watch a woman be ideal to spectacle.
Sure.
Would be the same sort of thing that you would get and derive from Tom.
Okay.
Warren, you would get a giggle in your belly.
Right. Okay. So when Tom performs, he And what sort of music will he perform to? And that brings me on to my next question of the music you perform to, because that must be key as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, music that Tom would perform to is just anything above anything, ultimately anything, anything that makes him feel fabulous.
Okay.
Really. So it's like either very stereotypical sort of 1950s sort of style music, with that sort of burlesque beat, something from like the very best of burlesque album, but at the moment I'm just about to debut. I'm personally debuting a new act to a nice sort of metal band called Skindred.
Right.
So metal music for me, musical music for me, and soundtracks and things like that. So anything really.
Wow. So
fantastic.
that's metal burlesque then. That's sort of.
Well, yes. So I'm doing something that's called a neo burlesque performance. So I'm amalgamating some bump and grind from the 1950s and some striptease sort of style to create something a little bit more. I think a bit in your face. It's going to be quite aggressive, but it's supposed to be a bit sex aggressive. Oh God, I'm saying that out now. I never say that out loud.
Well, that's a good. No, I like that word, sexpress. It's one of those new modern ones. It'll be in the Oxford English Dictionary in a couple of years.
I hope so, and we can hashtag that.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You can dine out on that one. So, so how long do you now? Because I do character comedy. Now, I've performed with some burlesque dancers, and it's pretty physical. You're dancing for. How long will each set you sort of perform? Will you perform for a song length, or will you go a bit longer? What's your average sort of, and how long will you go for?
Personally, I'm a 4 to 5 minute kind of gal.
Okay.
Anything longer makes me feel uncomfortable, but there is burlesque performances known to last about 10 minutes.
Right.
Especially through the legends, like the older performers who are around in like the 40s, 50s, 60s will perform sets from up to 15 minutes sometimes.
Right. Okay.
So that's crazy. That's incredible as well.
That's a crazy long time, is it? For yeah. So that's because it's, as you say, it's the anticipation and then the strip, and I suppose once you get to the end of the strip, that's it. It's time you got to go, or that's the end of the dance. I take it.
Yeah.
So it's like
pretty much. Pretty much.
So there's a nice final point to burlesque. At least you know where to end. It's like it's like that's it. So, and you say you teach. So I'm interested to know. So you taught. So you self-taught with burlesque, or you learnt under some? How did that sort of come about that you actually learnt burlesque or started to learn it in sort of earnest to make a living?
Well, I'm a bit of a party gal, and I absolutely love my nights out. And I went to a casino because I didn't want to finish my night out. And this is going back to like 2008, 2009. I saw a cheeky little poster in the ladies' toilets. This is a lovely conversation. And at the time, burlesque lessons, and it was something that I've been interested in for such a long time. Anyway, through my love of photography and the topless models of the 90s and things like that. And I love all that. So I thought, you know what it is? Why don't we do something exciting on a Wednesday night? Right, so I grabbed my mum and my friend and thought, well, they can come and have this lovely burlesque journey with me on a Wednesday. So we went to lessons in the same casino, and that was it. I was absolutely hooked. They were hooked. And every Wednesday, without fail, never missed a class.
Wow.
Went for about a year. And I just repeated the course over and over and over again because I adored it. It was just me. It just felt right. It felt better than any dance class I ever did when I was younger, better than my performance art qualification and anything like that. It just felt right. It was fantastic.
It was a eureka moment for you.
Yeah, pretty much. And I didn't want anything from it apart from it just to be there for me on a Wednesday. And we did a few student showcase shows. We showcased what we learnt in lessons, and that was as a group, not as a solo artist. So that was quite lovely. So you had the support from the other ladies. And then one day, the lady that used to teach me offered me a job.
Wow.
And that was that was it. She just said, would you like to work for me? I've seen that you do the choreography for all the other ladies, and you seem to be quite okay at this. Why didn't you come and work for us? So I did.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what was that like, the first day you had to teach? What were you thinking and feeling, if you can remember?
So I became a professional performer first for 2 years before I started teaching, because of course it's one of those things you need to have performance experience before you do teach any performance, I believe. And I'm a lecturer anyway, so I was already used to teaching.
Oh, right. And so you're a lecturer in
I've been a lecturer in performing arts.
Ah, right, okay, right.
Anyway.
So that and what sort of performing, sort of across the board of musicals, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I specialised in music for my early years, and then performing arts and English as well, for crying out loud. What's that all about? But we're taught English as well, as you do.
Yeah, as you do. So performing arts, this kind of was a bit of a platform for you, and a sort of a gate into burlesque, almost.
Yes, pretty much. And in inverted gate, it was something I knew that I wanted to do, but I didn't expect to be any opportunity for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
It just felt like it was somebody else's opportunity and not mine. So I'm always incredibly humbled to have this opportunity. So that's why I started to teach, because the beauty of burlesque in my life really impacted and made me feel really quite happy and comfortable with myself. And it was something I wanted to pass on to other people. It sounds very self-righteous, but
no,
it's more to do with the euphoria that it gives you. I wanted everyone else to have, and that's it. I've been teaching on a weekly basis since 2011, and it's bloody brilliant. I love it. Every moment.
Well, is there like a sort of zen-like happiness once you found burlesque? You were like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, pretty much, and not knowing that it was something I wanted to do, but not, as I said before, not thinking it was my opportunity to do so, or my vocation, or my path, and then realizing, oh my God, it is.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. So now you do all your obviously shows and all these performances. So can you remember, when was your very first show? And when you were like, this is it, and where did Trixie Blue come from as well? Where did the name come from? I said I wouldn't get Paxman. These are hard questions.
It's all right. You beat Paxman all you want. I'm happy with that. It's more fun, isn't it? So my first show was in the student showcase. So it was with the group of ladies that I was very proud to name, called the Suspender Kittens.
All right.
And these beautiful ladies still operate now as a different name called the Kitten Collective. So they still operate now, and we still work together and everything. It's brilliant.
Fantastic.
It's so much fun. But that first show, we performed to Moulin Rouge's Roxanne, and it just was such an electric feeling, and I felt like that. I felt that performance high for about a month.
Wow!
After I did that first ever performance, and that's a lot. I know that's a long time now from being a professional performer. That's a long time to have that high. And that was it. And what about the outfit that night, and how do you develop your style? So because now, for people listening, you say burlesque, or I say burlesque, everybody will instantly, I suppose for me, and it's the wrong style, is the club in Paris, the Moulin Rouge, the can dancers. That immediately conjures up, but burlesque is now more sophisticated, isn't it? So. Yeah, well, again, it's wonderful because it's such a transgressive art form. It can encompass any sort of costume, which is fantastic. A lot of performers look to and nod to the lovely 1950s style of bump and grind costume, where it's all panel skirts and exaggerating your erogenous zones and things like that, and it's just incredible. And costuming for me is something I hate. I absolutely decided it's one of the things I don't enjoy about the whole process. And I said that with I said that with hate.
I was expecting you to go, right, I just listen to all these coat hangers clatter as I get all these because if I was doing it, I'd have about 400 outfits. So really it's like you feel a bit restricted by I think the corset is the most famous sort of the lower corset with the big
absolutely,
but that's quite restrictive for you.
It is, and I've only got my newest act is the only act I've got with a corset. I don't have corsets with any of the other acts. I don't work with them. They're not my style at all.
Yeah.
So I'm more of it's always ostentatious, of course, a big ostentatious massive dress or a beautiful big sparkly gown. So I'm more of a gowny sort of performer. And it has to be peeled off in a nice, fast fashion. So lots of poppers, lots of sewing,
wow.
Flying.
Do you make the outfits yourself, or you made them for somewhere else?
No. Normally, House of Fraser make them for us, and I cut them up. I can't physically do it. As I said, I said it was such intention in my voice, hatred. I don't like costuming at all. I don't enjoy concept. I like choreography and performance, and costume I feel just gets in the way. If I didn't have to have a costume, there you go. There's an act there. Without a costume.
There's something. Well, there's another act there. Now, you were talking earlier about your mum and that first time when you did it, and you went off to a class. Now, what does your family think? What did you say your parents think about it, or your and friends? When you first said, "I'm a burlesque dancer or performer"?
Oh, well, my mum has done burlesque with me since day one.
Okay.
My mum comes to every single class. My mum comes to every single show that I produce and tries to come on tour with me around the country and stuff. My dad comes to every home show. They're the biggest supporters. And my mum will hate me for this, but I don't care. My mum is an award-winning performer herself. So I made her go into a competition with her cousin.
Yeah.
And they do this cheesecake style that I was talking about before. So it's all very girl next door. But my mum doesn't strip. She would hate it if anyone think that she took her clothes off.
Yes, yeah.
So she does burlesque in her own way. And they bloomin' won this competition. I've never been so proud.
Fantastic.
So I have a very very, very supportive family, and I have incredible friends that are very supportive as well, who will come and help out at shows, who would just come to shows, listen to my my tripe about burlesque on a daily basis. I've got a very good supportive network, which I'm very humbled to have, because I know that isn't the norm in burlesque, unfortunately.
Sure. And how do you and all the different outfits you have and songs that you choose, how do you keep the act fresh? What's if you're looking for a new idea, how do you kind of go about that?
I think it's just trying to up myself at all times, and I do that I'm also a flex instructor, so I teach flexibility as well. So I'm known for a drop split or a straddle split or something like that. So it's increasing my skill set. I think that I try and up my game and try and put a straddle split onto a normal front split or something like that, and that's how I try and keep it fresh and have a little bit of a signature move and things like that.
Can I just ask, that drop split, is that the one that I see in RuPaul Drag Race when it's lip sync for your life, and normally a drag queen desperate to get through throws herself into the air and does this drop and splits, and you think, oh my lord. Is that's called a drop split, is it?
It is, yes. So that's a lovely drop split, something that my age is now not letting me do as much. So I'm thinking of other ways of trying to create that nice drama.
And to do that, I take it you have to be very, very, like, if I were to attempt that, I mean, on a serious note, I could deeply pull hamstrings, and I take it you have to be pretty supple to be able to do that. Yes.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's not to be taken lightly.
but executed properly, Does it hurt, or is it just a question of?
No, it doesn't hurt. No.
Are you kind of breaking with your legs as the split goes? Sorry to be. I just see it so many times on RuPaul, and I just find it's like an athlete, isn't it? Basically, a footballer will train and do exercise.
Absolutely.
So is that the technique to sort of you kind of break with your muscles as you go down on the floor? Is that
Well, there's loads of different ways to do it, really, and the idea behind it, the idea that I believe in, is that you just continuously train.
Right.
You continuously watch your posture and ensure that everything is above board before you do it. Sometimes I won't do it if I've done myself a mischief.
Yes.
About watching RuPaul, I mean, I absolutely love it when they drop split, but I am a terrible person to always be like, God, their foot's bent that way. It's bent the other way. And I worry for them. I think, please don't hurt yourself.
I know. There must be outtakes where they've had to stretch them off because they just...
I would hope so. I really hope so, bless them.
But that's the professionalism. Of course, I've done comedy, and we have our great shows, but sometimes they don't go as well as we expect. So, can you think of the worst show, or a bit of a dress malfunction, or anything that's happened that you can think of?
Oh my goodness!
Or you're a perfectionist. Maybe you have never had a bad show.
Crikey. I don't know where to start there. My goodness me. So I've fallen down some stairs and managed to get a whiplash and sprain my ankle before I went on as a performance. Right. So that was a pretty low point, but the show must go on, and that's the philosophy that I really live by.
Yeah.
And so that was really bad. So I had really bad whiplash that didn't come on until obviously 3 days after, when I was competing in a competition and I was in agony. It was horrendous, but I still went on.
You still kept going. That's one. And I asked earlier, and is Trixie Blue? Where I love the name, and where does that come from? Did it you pluck it out from the air, or I'm curious.
Well, what I try to do is, I've tried to live by the old sort of style burlesque rules of the way back when, of where burlesque stars were given their name. And I've tried to think of, how can I make this into something that was my given name, but something I'm quite happy to have. So Trixie comes from people on the telephone mishearing me. So my normal name, not my normal name, what am I talking about? My name, which is Christy.
Right.
And that gets misinterpreted on the phone if I wanted to phone at BT or something, and like Trixie, I'm thinking, no, that's a dog's name, Petal. I'm not called Trixie. But there's where the Trixie comes from. And Blue is because I was always the more risque one in university. I would always research the taboo subjects and always search for the everyday adventure. So I was a bit of Blue. Always was a bit of Blue, so that's where that came from.
That's wonderful.
And now I can't get rid of it, Jeff, because it's tattooed on my bloody leg.
Right, well, that's it then. That's on. Oh, so and do you actually? Because do you have quite a few tattoos? Because some performers do and some don't. Is that part of the look as well, the style?
So I don't think it's part of my style. I think I started getting tattoos before I started the whole burlesque thing, and I haven't really. I've only got two that are relevant to burlesque, which is my burlesque name on my leg. What's that about? I don't know what that's about. That's embarrassing. But right. I also have a horseshoe on my thumb, my lucky horseshoe. Oh, right. On my thumb. I feel that it makes me feel a little bit more safer if I've got something honest, but it's a bit of a lucky charm.
Well, that's nice. I think, yes, that sounds as much as I could, but I've not got tattoos myself, but I've seen it sort of, and it looks painful. Yes. So I think, yes,
it is painful.
I think, yes, I think that's delight. Yeah, as small is better for tattoos for me. That's for sure. So, and so and another question that I always ask on the show is that who would you recommend I interview for the next show or an up-and-coming podcast? Who do you think I should get on?
Well, one of my most favourite producers, who I have never seen perform live, but she's been in the business for decades. She's a bloody babe. Her name's Bella Besame.
Okay.
She's a Manchester-based performer and Leeds-based performer and producer. Just the most amazing woman, one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my whole life.
Wonderful. Okay, and she produces a lot of
She
shows
produces
and
all the time.
Brilliant.
Produces some of the best shows I've ever been in. Some of the ones that have made me feel incredible. And she's just an absolute babe.
fantastic.
Babe.
I will check her out. Well, thank you very much, Trixie
Very
Blue,
welcome.
for coming on Funny Peculiar podcast, and it's been wonderful. I've learned, well, we've discussed drop splits. That's sorted me now, and I've learned loads that I didn't know because I chat to all sorts of performers and other burlesques, so it's really interesting to hear your story. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much, Trixie Blue.
You've been listening to Funny Peculiar. Tune in next week. More great guests.
Thank you again to my guest today, Trixie Blue, a burlesque dancer. You can follow Trixie via her Facebook page, which is Trixie Blue, or you can get her via her website, which is houseoftrixieblue.co.uk. Twitter, she is House of TB. You can get on that. And also Instagram, it's House of Trixie Blue. So check out her website, have a look at her burlesque lessons, and she is based in Newcastle. Thank you again to Trixie. Keep listening to Funny Peculiar. We've got more great guests coming up. Please click, please subscribe, and please share. Thank you very much.